I've seen thousands of cases walk through those courtroom doors, but what happened with Margaret Thornton, a 72-year-old real estate mogul, still keeps me up at night. Not because of what she did, because of what she said to my face. Before I tell you what happened next, I need you to ask this. Which country are you watching this from right now? Drop your location in the comments, like this video, and subscribe to this channel. Let me paint you the picture. Margaret Thornton, 72 years old, wearing what I later learned was a $5,000 Chanel suit, diamond earrings catching the light. That Hermes bag probably cost more than most folks in my courtroom make in 3 months. But the problem wasn't luxury, it was something else. My bailiff had already pulled me aside before the session. He told me this defendant had been difficult with court staff. Dismissive, he said. She'd demanded they reschedule because she had a meeting with investors. I've dealt with difficult before. What I didn't know was that difficult was about to become unforgettable. The citation read simple enough. Margaret Thornton cited for running a red light with aggravating circumstances. The officer's notes mentioned a pedestrian nearly struck. The report said she refused to provide her license, told the officer her lawyer handles these matters. I looked up at her with the same warmth I give everyone. Miss Thornton, good morning. Please approach the bench. She walked forward slowly, not with the careful steps of a 72-year-old woman, with the deliberate pace of someone who thinks you should wait for them. I tried again, firmer this time. Miss Thornton, I need your full attention. Please put your phone away. She finally looked up. The expression on her face, I'll never forget it, like I just interrupted something important to bother her with nonsense. She told me, "It's Mrs. Thornton, Your Honor. I didn't build a $40 million empire to be called Miss." The correction came with contempt, like I'd somehow insulted her. I maintained my composure. 38 years on this bench teaches you patience. Mrs. Thornton, I said, you're here regarding a traffic citation, running a red light on Benefit Street. How do you plead? She told me she was managing a $12 million commercial deal right now. She asked if we could expedite this because she had actual important matters waiting. That word, actual. She'd just told me my courtroom wasn't important. The courtroom went quiet. I picked up the file. Read it carefully while she checked her watch, a gesture everyone noticed. Mrs. Thornton, I said, the law applies to everyone equally. Your business success doesn't change that. She looked me straight in the eye. She told me that with respect, in the real world, everything has a price. She said she'd paid dozens of these tickets. Just tell her the fine and she'd have her assistant handle it. She'd just reduced my courtroom to a payment window. I set the file down carefully. Mrs. Thornton, before we discuss fines, let's review the specifics. The citation indicates you ran a red light on Benefit Street at the intersection of Hope. The time was 3:15 in the afternoon. Does that sound correct? She waved her hand like she was brushing away a fly. She told me if that's what the ticket says, fine. She didn't remember every intersection she drives through. She had more important things occupying her mind than traffic signals. I continued, keeping my voice steady. The officer's report indicates that when you were pulled over, you refused to provide your driver's license initially. She said she asked why she was being stopped. That was her constitutional right, wasn't it? Or does that not apply to people who actually contribute to society? The jab landed. I saw several people in the gallery shift uncomfortably. I stayed calm. You absolutely have the right to ask why you were stopped. But according to Officer Ramirez, you told him, and I'm reading from his report here, that you don't carry your license because your lawyer handles all traffic matters and that his time was being wasted on someone of your stature. She didn't deny it. She told me she may have said something to that effect. She was late for a meeting that had been scheduled for weeks. The officer seemed more interested in flexing his authority than actual public safety. My prosecutor stood up. Young woman with a stack of folders, she asked to approach. I nodded. She handed me several documents. She told me that Mrs. Thornton's driving record shows 6 prior violations in the past 3 years. All were paid, but she never appeared in court for any of them. Additionally, this particular violation has aggravating circumstances that weren't initially apparent. I examined the documents. Mrs. Thornton, these prior violations include 2 speeding tickets, 3 red light violations, and 1 citation for reckless driving. That's a significant pattern. Her voice rose slightly. She asked me, a pattern of what? Living her life? Driving to appointments? Every single one of those tickets was paid immediately. That's how the system works, doesn't it? You give tickets, she pays them, everyone's happy. That's the transaction. I leaned forward. No, Mrs. Thornton, that is not how the system works. Stay with me, because what I discovered next about this woman's violation will show you why wealth and age don't excuse recklessness. My prosecutor continued. She told me about the aggravating circumstances. The traffic camera footage shows that Mrs. Thornton ran the red light in what is designated as a school zone. The timestamp is 3:15, which is dismissal time for the elementary school on that block. A pedestrian, later identified as an elderly man, had to jump back onto the curb to avoid being struck by her vehicle. The courtroom erupted in whispers. I raised my hand for silence. Mrs. Thornton, I said, you ran a red light in a school zone during dismissal time. She told me that school zone is ridiculous. It's only active for 30 minutes twice a day and causes massive traffic delays. And as for the pedestrian, if he was in the crosswalk when her light was red, that means he was jaywalking. Why isn't he getting a ticket? The gasps were louder this time. A mother holding a toddler stared at her with open disbelief. I felt my expression harden. Mrs. Thornton, that man was in a designated crosswalk. He had the right of way. You ran a red light and nearly struck him. Do you understand the seriousness of what could have happened? I said. She crossed her arms. She told me what could have happened didn't happen. She had complete control of her vehicle. The problem is that people don't pay attention. They wander into streets looking at their phones, expecting everyone else to accommodate their carelessness. Why should she be penalized because someone else wasn't careful? I leaned forward. Mrs. Thornton, you ran the red light. You broke the law. The pedestrian did nothing wrong. She told me to let her be frank. This whole proceeding is a waste of time. Her time, my time, everyone's time. She's a busy woman. She runs a $40 million company. She makes decisions every day that affect hundreds of employees and their families. She contributes more to this city's economy than most people in this courtroom will earn in their lifetimes. So yes, she ran a red light. Yes, she'll pay the fine. Can we please just process this so she can get back to actual important work? The silence that followed was absolute. Even my court reporter's fingers paused above her keyboard. Margaret Thornton had just told an entire courtroom that her work matters more than their time, their safety, their presence. But she wasn't finished. She looked directly at me. What she told me next, I still can't believe a 72-year-old woman said to a judge. She said, "With all due respect, Your Honor, and I mean this genuinely, I don't need a lecture from someone who's never built anything." My hands gripped the edge of the bench. She continued. She told me she creates opportunities. She develops properties. She generates wealth and employment. What do I do? I sit in this box day after day stamping papers and collecting a government paycheck. I've probably never signed the front of a check in my life, only the back. Then my bailiff actually took a step forward. The court reporter's mouth fell open. Don't skip ahead, because what I did next became the most talked about moment in Providence courtroom history. I stood up. When I stand during a hearing, everyone who knows me understands something significant is happening. The warmth that defines me, the compassion that people say makes me different, it vanished. My eyes became serious. Mrs. Thornton, I said, each word measured and controlled, did you just tell this court that my service to the law is meaningless? She didn't back down. Her success had insulated her for so long. She told me she's saying that we operate in different worlds. In her world, results matter. Productivity matters. She can't afford to spend her morning in a courtroom over something that should take 5 minutes to resolve. This isn't personal. It's just reality. That's when a voice came from the gallery. Your Honor, may I speak? I looked toward the source. An elderly man in his 70s, wearing a military veteran's cap, stood with careful dignity. I nodded. Please, sir, state your name. He told me his name is Robert Chen, United States Army, Korea. He's lived in Providence for 52 years and he needs to say something. I gestured for him to continue. He told me he sat there and listened to this woman insult me and he can't stay quiet. He's appeared in my courtroom 3 times over the years. Parking violations, nothing serious. Each time I treated him with respect. I listened. I was fair. I understood he's on a fixed income, and I worked with him. Then he turned slightly, looking directly at Margaret. He told her she doesn't know what she's talking about. He said I've probably helped more people in this city than her company ever will. I don't measure my worth in dollars. I measure it in fairness and compassion and making sure people like him don't get crushed by a system they can barely understand. The fact that she thinks money makes her better than me shows exactly who she is. The gallery erupted in applause. Several people stood. I raised my hand and the room quieted immediately. Margaret suddenly looked less confident. She glanced toward the door. "Mrs. Thornton," I said quietly, "I'm going to give you one opportunity to retract your statement and apologize to this court." Her pride warred with her instinct. Her mouth opened, closed, opened again. Then she made her second catastrophic mistake. She told me why should she apologize for speaking the truth. I want respect. Respect is earned. Sitting in judgment of people who actually do things doesn't earn it. How much do I make? 80,000 a year? 90,000? She spends that on a weekend vacation. We are not the same. The courtroom erupted again. And that's when Margaret Thornton pulled out her cell phone. Right there in open court, she started dialing. Stay with me, because what happened when I asked her who she was calling will restore your faith in justice. She held the phone to her ear. She told me she's calling her husband. He can explain this better than she can. The courtroom collectively held its breath. "Mrs. Thornton, put that phone away immediately," I said. She kept the phone at her ear. She said he's the one who deals with legal matters. He'll know what to say. My voice became ice cold. "Mrs. Thornton, you are standing in my courtroom facing criminal charges, and you just attempted to call your husband for help in the middle of proceedings. That is contempt of court." She finally lowered the phone. I made a decision that became legendary in Rhode Island legal history. "Bailiff, retrieve Mrs. Thornton's phone." She looked confused, panicked even. "Mrs. Thornton, you called your husband. I'm going to give you what you wanted. We're going to talk to him right now." Her face went pale. I instructed my clerk to contact her husband's office. Her husband is State Senator Richard Thornton, currently serving his 4th term, a respected legislator known for his work on elder care reform. Within minutes, we had him on the line. I put the call on speakerphone so the entire courtroom could hear. "Senator Thornton, this is Judge Frank Caprio in Providence Municipal Court. Your wife is here for a hearing regarding traffic violations, and she just attempted to call you in the middle of proceedings for assistance. I'm putting you on speaker so we can address this matter publicly." There was a pause. Then we heard Senator Thornton's voice. "He told me he apologizes for his wife's behavior. She had no right to call him during court proceedings." Margaret tried to interrupt, but I held up my hand. Senator Thornton continued. "He told me he needs to say something for the record. He's been aware of the charges against his wife since the incident occurred. He's advised her to take full responsibility, to apologize, and to accept whatever consequences the court deems appropriate." Margaret's eyes widened. "Senator Thornton," I asked, "are you asking this court to show leniency to your wife because of your position?" His answer made Margaret physically stagger. He told me no. He's asking me to treat her exactly as I would treat any other defendant. Her actions were wrong. The fact that she's married to a state senator doesn't excuse running a red light in a school zone, nearly hitting a pedestrian, or disrespecting my court. Margaret whispered, "Richard, what are you doing?" Senator Thornton heard her. He told her he advised her to take responsibility. She chose not to listen. He spent his career working on legislation that protects elderly citizens, on accountability, on equal application of law. He can't advocate for those principles publicly and then ask for exemptions privately. I asked him if he has anything else to say. His voice became even more serious. He told me the pedestrian his wife nearly struck is a 76-year-old retired postal worker. The fact that his wife ran a red light in a school zone and nearly killed an elderly man, then showed zero remorse, is something he finds deeply shameful. That man deserves respect, not reckless endangerment from someone who then threatens officers and insults judges. The courtroom was absolutely silent. He told me whatever sentence I determine is appropriate. I have his full support. His wife needs to learn that her last name doesn't grant her immunity from consequences. If this were any other defendant, he'd expect full accountability. He expects the same for her. I thanked the senator. The call ended. Margaret stood alone, completely exposed. "Mrs. Thornton, your husband, the man you tried to call for help in the middle of court proceedings, just told me to treat you like any other defendant. Let's do exactly that." I delivered the sentence. For running a red light in a school zone, $1,000 fine. For endangering a pedestrian, additional $500 fine. For refusal to cooperate with an officer, additional $250 fine. For contempt of court for attempting to use a phone during proceedings, additional $500 fine. Total monetary penalties, $2,250. But I wasn't finished. I ordered her license suspended for 6 months. She would complete 80 hours of community service at a senior center, helping elderly residents with transportation needs. The exact kind of assistance the man she nearly hit might have needed if she'd injured him. She would attend a mandatory defensive driving course, in person, not online. And she would write formal letters of apology to Officer Ramirez, to Robert Chen, and to this court. Her attorney tried to object. I silenced him immediately. Mr. Harrison, your client ran a red light in a school zone, nearly struck an elderly pedestrian, insulted this court, and tried to call her husband for rescue in the middle of proceedings. Every consequence she's facing is proportional to her choices. As Margaret was processed out, she passed Robert Chen in the gallery. She didn't acknowledge him. But he stood and addressed me. He told me he just wants to thank me. He's 73 years old. He served in Korea. He's never asked for special treatment, but he also didn't expect to be treated like he didn't matter. I just showed him that in my courtroom. He's somebody. I nodded, visibly moved. Mr. Chen, you've always been somebody. This court just made sure Mrs. Thornton learned that. Margaret Thornton walked into my court thinking her wealth and her husband's position would save her. She called him expecting rescue. Instead, she heard him choose justice over protection. That phone call she thought would fix everything became the moment that changed her life forever. That's justice. That's integrity. And that's why, after 38 years, I still believe this courtroom is the one place where everyone is equal. See you next case.